Archimex login confirmed.
Welcome to the Lodge. You've accessed
the Lodgecast experience.
Warning, warning, dangerous spoilers ahead. Enjoy.
Oh boy, we got a live one tonight. I'm your Lodge Master. With me as always is Brother Bishke.
Present.
And tonight, Brother Lucas is a conscientious objector. And we totally celebrate his reasoning and his need to do that and to stay in a positive mind space because of tonight's cinematic endeavor. With us tonight is a very special guest, Brother Zach.
Against my better judgment.
And we are at the CityWalk, the Universal CityWalk tonight. You can hear a little bit of the flavor out and about. And tonight's movie, Bishke, what is tonight's movie?
I think he puts his name in front of it. It is, well, maybe not, but it's Dinesh D'Souza's Death of America.
Death of a Nation.
I'm sorry. Death of a Nation.
The nation is America.
Or the death of, yeah.
So, a little bit of history. We got to run in because it's about to start. But I think you're the Dinesh historian here, as it were.
Dinesh and I go back. He came on my radar sometime in the...
What is Dinesh D'Souza?
Freshly pardoned.
He's freshly pardoned, but he's a political hack. I immediately, I hate political partisans on both sides, but this guy on the conservative side, he goes with the mainstream all the way down the line, fights for it. He's fighting for Trump.
And it should be said, we're going to do Michael Moore's movie too, so we're gonna cover both extremes, as it were. But tonight belongs to Dinesh.
I have just one quick question to you guys, having seen his work before. It might just be my political bias, but is Dinesh's work truly, is he just the Michael Moore of the right? Or I assume, maybe falsely, that his work is a lot shittier, even if he is the polar different opinion. I mean, Michael Moore is not an Errol Morris, but is it just the same thing but on the right, or is it's far worse?
It's far.
I wouldn't call these documentaries.
Okay.
No.
Maybe tonight will surprise us. I don't know. We're trying to keep it open-minded.
We're trying to be open.
But
should we talk about the old movies, or should we say that till after?
I've seen 2016 Hillary's America.
Yes.
You've seen both that and the Obama one.
That one was 2016 Obama's America. The Hillary's America was... He's drawing on how the Democrats were in the 19th century, which I think he's going back to that well tonight.
Yes.
He really digs deeply in nitpicks history to find his kind of revisionist version of why liberals are evil.
And then what happens is people see it and are like, he showed me truths that I was never aware of. Well, that's because he's making a lot of them up. In my experience of his past films. Again, tonight, maybe it's a completely different story.
All I know is the last one had a salad dragon that was beyond belief. Hopefully tonight we'll have something along that order, but
it's going to be in the reenactments. He's got amazing, crazy reenactments.
Yeah.
I think he had a Klansman atop a horse on the front lawn of the White House in the last one.
Ooh,
yeah.
Boy.
And it was very CG. It was
great. Yeah. It was like a hologram. It was flickered and buzzed.
Yes.
But Zach, we did bring you here against your will, pretty much against your will. I mean, you knew that this challenge was
said
coming.
Punish me. I didn't mean in this way.
You did ask for it. It's on tape. When we went to First Reformed, you loved it so much, you're like, now I need to get punished. And here we are at the CityWalk, Zach.
I know. This is tough for me, both physically and mentally and deep in my heart. This is tough for me, but I'm gonna stare this beast in the eye.
And you're gonna try to view it as a movie.
I'm gonna try and view it as a movie. I'm gonna do my best to not just refute all the political and historical
Leave that
blasphemies
for other
that he's about to toss our way as much as I can and just focus on, what we think about what he's doing cinematically, if we can call it that. But I guess one thing I'm curious about going into it, in the day after QAnon making an appearance at the Trump rally, and the mainstream media just tickling itself over how batshit crazy that is. My question is D'Souza from a different era? And I'm curious, is he crazy enough for the Trump era? Is he up to the task to speak to the QAnoners?
I've been following him very closely. He's definitely crazy enough for the Trump era.
Okay, all right.
He's ready.
Okay. He has basically wherever the Republican Party goes, he will follow to his death day. And he was with Reagan,
but
and he was a Reaganite.
Deep base.
But he's deep, and he knows he gets speaking arrangements all over the country to promote whatever's going on in the mainstream of Republicans, and he's definitely not a never Trumper. He is on board 100%.
He's always Trumper.
Daddy pardoned him.
We won't know the truth we won't know the truth until we see the fiction. So we gotta go.
Right now, we know the poster has half a face of Lincoln with half a face of Trump, and signifying that this is our second chance.
This is the man to save the Union.
To save the Union, to save the country, to bring us together.
A less eloquent man, perhaps.
Perhaps. I'm going to try to play the devil's advocate a bit. We'll see how much that holds up. But in the meantime, Bishki and I, we're praying for you, Zach.
Yeah.
We believe you can make it through this.
I'm going to pull the ceremonial Bishki bathroom break maybe more than once.
Yeah, go for it.
That is your right. That is your right.
Yeah.
All right.
And we're doubly hurt because Movie Pass is down for the 5th day now.
Yeah, I'm on the AMC A-list, and I'm also on Cinemia, so we're still covering the tickets, but it's hurting.
Yeah.
We're limping.
Yeah.
Love and light. We're going to go do this thing.
So much light.
And we'll see you on the other side if we live. Well, we are back. We are in the Jurassic parking lot outside of the CityWalk, colloquially known as the Shitty Walk.
Yep.
And, Zach, are you alive?
I'm here.
Okay.
I only left once.
Bishki, you alive?
Yeah.
Before we get into it, before we get into even the snops, I want to say I am excited because this is a true shining example of what the Lodgecast is all about. We saw a movie that 0.001% of you will ever consider seeing. Ever.
I wouldn't have considered it.
On your best day.
I took this bullet for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are really going deep into the weeds, seeing what's down there, digging around in the muck, and bringing out the pearls of wisdom from our experience. I couldn't be more proud of us. That said, Brother Bishki, what's this motherfucking snops?
From Rotten Tomatoes.
Shit, that's a block of text.
Yes. Not since 1860 had the Democrats so fanatically refused to accept the result of a free election. That year, their target was Lincoln. They smeared him. They went to war to defeat him. In the end, they assassinated him.
Lincoln derangement syndrome.
There you go.
Now, the target of the Democrats is President Trump and his supporters. The left calls them racists, white supremacists, and fascists. These charges are used to justify driving Trump from office and discrediting the right by any means necessary. But which is the party of slave plantation? Which is the party that invented white supremacy? Which is the party that praised fascist dictators and shaped their genocidal policies and was in turn praised by them? Moreover, which is the party of racism today? Is fascism now institutionally embodied on the right or on the left? Through stunning historical recreations and a searching examination of fascism and white supremacy, Death of a Nation cuts through progressive big lies to expose hidden history and explosive truths. Lincoln united his party and saved America from the Democrats for the first time. Can Trump and we come together and save America for the second time?
There it is. Thank you for that. I appreciate you allowing those words to flow out of your mouth with the rapid clip that they did. Let's set the scene. there were the three of us in the theater, and then two other people, and then two women came in with very interesting accents.
They were Russian.
They were Russian women.
They've infiltrated.
And they were very chatty.
It was so perfect. So, grand total, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people.
I'm just going to dispute this. I thought there was a solo man and then a couple on the other end of that row. Is that, you're saying there were two solos?
I thought there were two solos.
Two solos,
okay.
A man and a woman. The woman was keeping a low profile.
Got it. I inflated the audience total by 33%.
And the woman may have been a rogue agent because I was watching her and she was rubbing her head, not unlike yourself, Brother Zach, throughout most of the movie.
Hi, my name is Zach and I'm a progressive.
So, I don't think...
How did it start? It's so long.
Oh my God, it was so long.
Well, look, it started much the way that the synopsis was basically the film.
Entire film.
And he interviewed at the end credits, it listed 6 individuals.
Yep.
He interviewed a grand total of 6.
It's mostly the Dinesh
It's
show.
a Dinesh monologue. You're basically at a Dinesh lecture for the entirety of the film.
And there's a lot of reenactments, a lot of them involving Nazi Germany, with a kind of hilarious Hitler. Like, I don't know how they cast him. And they also... the movie begins with this war newsreel footage of bombings in World War II. And then they go to Hitler in the bunker.
Hitler's bunker.
With Eva Braun. And... the Hitler they chose, I don't think he was a native German speaker, because you see some of the scenes and he's really kind of phonetically pronouncing it. So then you'd think he would look amazing if you're going to not get a German guy, but he didn't even look anything like him.
No.
I think there's a small group of people that they could pull from that would appear in this movie, and B, appear in this movie as Hitler.
The Lincoln was equally far-fetched in terms of...
I thought Lincoln was worse.
Yeah.
Lincoln was hilarious.
Was more poorly cast even than Hitler,
So basically what the format is Dinesh begins a little gentle, like asking questions like, why is this? Why is that? And then by the end, after he's filled in...
Well, young Dinesh in India wonders why some countries die and some don't.
That's how it literally starts.
And that's the question we are posed at the beginning.
And by the end, he is screaming in your ear what is the real, quote-unquote, real deal that he has found.
Right.
Yeah.
So, to get there, though, he takes us on a wild journey.
A wild revisionist epic history.
He paints a picture, first of all, of a President Donald Trump that does not exist.
Yes.
And he's truthfully barely exists in the movie.
Trump has very little actual screen time where he's saying anything.
I'd love to see like a grid, an Excel sheet of the amount of time Dinesh spends talking about what Trump is, juxtaposed with the amount of actual time Trump speaks reading from a teleprompter.
It also kind of closely mirrors Trump's, rallies that he's been doing, in that, I don't know, it seemed like 15 minutes, but maybe it was closer to 10 minutes is spent early on how certain everybody was that Hillary was going to win, and then the crushing defeat.
That was long.
It was long. And I was all, like, again, I'm trying to go into this as, like, okay, Dinesh, it looks like you got a slightly bigger budget. Your last movie, your mouth was writing checks that history can't really cash, but what do you got this time? And when we got to the section, the montage about election night 2016, he botched even that. Like, the editing's not very good. Like, that's a layup. It's even porn for, like, dark porn for us, people like you and me, Brother Bishke, sometimes, is seeing...
The girl screaming.
Like, it's easy to do.
The girl screaming, I think, is used in Sacha Baron Cohen's new show.
It's used everywhere.
For the satire of the liberal.
Funny,
It's funny.
And so it's an easy layup to do a montage like that and to get people riled up, but it's not even well put together. And I was like, oh, no.
And I think, how many states would you say he makes us watch through Trump winning?
Oh, a ton.
I mean, it's like, we all lived through that fucking night. Let's get on with it.
Yeah. and
We
we
get
had
it.
to live through it again because it is the shining moment of Trump when he
But
shocked
yeah,
the
again,
world.
like it's not just sour
Yeah.
grapes for me. Like it's
boring.
it's boring because of the way it's put together. If we're trying to keep this on the rails as a critique of filmmaking, that's bad filmmaking. To say nothing of the content.
Well, and let's back it up just a smidge back to the bunker
Yes.
because this is a
what
there's
does the bunker have to do with anything?
well I'm gonna bring the bunker is his hook.
Okay.
And what he does every time he goes into a reenactment, he really lingers. None more than a sequence we'll get to near the end of the film.
Yeah.
But he really plays. He will hang on an important, on a meaningful look.
Yes.
As if there's been tension in a whole movie that doesn't exist.
Yes.
I mean, we're just watching these reenactments, and we're like, yeah, okay, maybe
But
cut that shit in half.
They're not.
I don't care
they're
about
not really
these people.
advancing even his agenda. They're not really doing anything other than to add the an air of prestige, unearned prestige about it. That's all it is.
We're in the bunker. We're watching them take a pill and basically say it's the death of Nazi Germany and of the Reich. And we all know Hitler's going to shoot himself. And then he belabors it.
Well, before he shoots himself,
Yeah.
he slowly turns toward us.
Towards us.
Which is what almost all of his reenactment subjects do at a certain point. Lincoln's going to
Yeah.
look at us.
Yeah.
Everybody looks at us. I don't know why they're looking at
They're
us.
just kind of letting you know, hey, this could. I'm talking to you.
Yeah, I'm talking
Yeah.
to you.
And I'm going to recall for the not so casual but dedicated Lodgecast listener, our Gotti episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because much like the editing in Gotti, we leave Hitler as he's pulling the trigger. We pull back out of the bunker. We go back in
Yeah.
to let you know blood is on the walls.
Yep.
He did kill himself just like you thought he did.
Yep.
But we just want to re-show you what you already know to be true.
It's artless.
That's just like when Gotti goes and kills the person in the shower in his dental
I
visit.
think the tentacles of Gotti are going to
Yeah.
extend
Yeah.
far and wide and deep.
Gotti's influential, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. It's they were probably editing in edit bays next to each other.
Yeah.
Bishki, as our resident D'Souza scholar,
D'Souza has topped himself.
what are you feeling during these early
Like,
sections of the movie?
I feel like it hurts. I get beat down by a D'Souza movie. Like 2016 Obama's America was basically him pulling at straws, trying to find the dirt on Obama that he never really does. He finds dirt on his father, but it's rather innocent and just
right.
reaching, and he
And
has
then you
nothing.
see the progression into the Hillary one.
And then the Hillary one, yeah, he's getting
out for blood.
He got a bigger budget. He's out for blood, and
he uses footage from those two movies in this movie.
yes.
So do you think that's because he's counting on most of us never seeing it,
No,
or he's
it's
just
because
saying
he's like, I got some cool shots, and I'm rehashing some of this
Right,
material.
okay.
So why wouldn't I bring it back?
why would I
Yeah.
why would I
Like,
shoot something again?
The Woodrow Wilson watching A Birth of a Nation
yeah.
at the White House is
He
from...
really leans on Woodrow Wilson watching Birth of a Nation as if it's definitive proof that the Democrat Party of today is responsible for the Ku Klux Klan and racism of today.
Here's the thing that's the funniest about Dinesh is that he, in these interviews and even throughout the course of his own movie, he ends up dunking on himself so hard, accidentally. And Zach and I turned to each other at one point and we're like, he's getting dunked on. And we said at the exact same time. And that's...
Where does it begin? For me, it's the sequence where he's in Europe. He's going to all the places where Hitler went.
Oh, God.
We're
That's-
reliving Hitler's rise, and
I think this is the Salad Dragon
Yeah.
scene.
it is absolutely
whole-
because we all are
many-
looking at each other.
The whole movie is, in essence, a Salad Dragon movie, just because it's so bizarre.
It's so what the fuck, but
But what he does a lot of times as he's walking around Europe, he didn't need to go to Europe, by the way, but he is walking around Europe and he's looking at different landmarks, and then his surroundings will
crossfade
into historical
but
photographs.
he is in the position
Of Hitler.
Adolf Hitler.
Every time.
Every time it crossfades, Dinesh is Hitler, according to the cinematic language of this movie.
Because he's standing in the center of the frame, and then all the Nazis will fill in, and then finally Dinesh will disappear,
and Hitler will appear in his place.
Hitler will appear in his place, and he did that like 3 times.
And no one thought to say, Dinesh, it's kind of weird.
Maybe
that
you can just be off to the side, like an observer. No, he is in Hitler's podium pole position.
Yeah.
What, like...
Why
Does it
would
take?
you do? What?
I mean, he's obviously a megalomaniac, putting his name like all over the movie and being it basically a masturbatory fantasy.
How about when he
talks?
talks about he himself was a victim of a fascist government that is responsible for his arrest. So that he really
incredible.
makes himself.
So when he puts himself,
victim,
literally inserts himself into history as Hitler, at least photographically, it's a head scratcher, and it's definitely a dunk on
And
moment.
it's not the first. And it's not the last. Sorry, it's not the last, is what I meant to say.
Yeah,
it ain't the last. It may not have been the first either, really.
Yeah,
So-
and through all these reenactments, he is nitpicking like crazy, bringing up obscure Democratic figures from the 19th century, early 20th century, that you've never heard of, who Hitler liked to quote from or something like that.
Well, and while he's doing this, he's talking about the danger of rewriting history.
Right.
And saying Hitler tried to rewrite history. And again, inadvertent self-dunk. You're doing it, bro!
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I kept thinking,
Oh, my God.
he's really just talking about the Trump administration and himself the entire time.
Yeah.
And he's not really using logic even. He's just saying shit. He's either leaving out huge holes in history, like he never has someone make a case
No.
for what he's trying to refute. He just tells you what it is, which is often not what it really is, and then he tells you why he's right and builds a whole case,
yes.
often leaving out gaping holes of history, rewriting history. I mean,
Like
it's
wholesale.
It's
Like
incredible.
The format is he asks a question, then he'll hit you with a bunch of specious, anecdotal, quote-unquote evidence, and then he'll cap it off with, so we're the good guys, they're the bad guys.
Yeah, this was actually the result of the tyrannical left. He
keeps
footnotes.
hitting it, and
He
keeps
footnotes
repeating
every.
phrases.
Yeah.
It's like build the wall. It's like lock her up. He has these phrases that he keeps the Jacksonian Democrat.
There's another dunk on himself because Trump loves Andrew
He's got a
Jackson.
painting of
Jackson.
Andrew Jackson in the Oval Office because Bannon told him, "You're like Andrew Jackson."
And then there's all these reenactments with slaves, which I'm sorry to you folks that appeared in this movie, but I'd be fine with blacklisting all of you. Fuck you.
How Nazi of you?
I'm
Matt.
fine. I'm fine with the irony there.
And I could.
Fuck you.
And looking at the faces of the Trump supporters who had some of the Nazi gear on, I was like, I can tell they're getting into on some of them. I was like, these guys are kind of getting into this stuff. It's not.
Yeah.
There was reenactments where I was getting because I know these guys are just
they love it. They love rewriting history.
Well, let's talk about one section that, one of many, but one section that I just thought was just bananas, where and it really is the hinge of his whole argument, which is that in his opinion, Democrats are responsible for the Ku Klux Klan, slavery, racism, and using the state as an apparatus to keep people enslaved economically. So the whole way this is going to only work for where we are today is if he's able to disrupt the historical notion that the parties switched in the 60s.
Which is what his whole last movie was about, too.
Right, I know his books are about this. Okay, so according to D'Souza, this is all based on Nixon and the Southern strategy leading to Nixon's election, and he tells you why that's wrong.
Right.
But I kept turning to both of you going so what happened to LBJ passing the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act?
Not even mentioned.
He is not mentioned.
He's not even
There's
in
a
it.
footnote where he says something about how many Dixiecrats actually switched parties after the passage of the Civil Rights Act, and he says, and they died Democrats or whatever. And he,
But
again,
you know what? The target demographic audience for this, don't worry. They're going to go home and they're going to do their own research and make sure
absolutely.
that all of this is on the up and up. And
do their research at Breitbart.com, probably.
one thing that I really got a huge whiff of during this is, well, first off, I said I was going to be devil's advocate. Fuck that. There's so much World War II reenactments that don't really go anywhere, like, quote-unquote, plot-wise. This is just porn for the older gentlemen in the demographic who love World War II shit, who watch the History Channel. It has the feel and look of History Channel reenactments, but the message is stroking a different part.
Just showing that footage of the Nazis and then saying,
a sweet spot.
And then saying the left Democrats, like, it's just putting
It's
things
hitting two
toge-
birds with one stone.
Well, let's hit the third bird with World War II, which is, you know who was most persecuted? It wasn't the Jews, it was the Christians.
That's when Zach got up. For
That's
his
when
bathroom
Zach.
break.
That's when Zach remembered his bar mitzvah and said, "You go to the bathroom now."
You audibly were like, "Fuck this."
Shalom, Dinesh. You can stop using my brother's.
It was a very direct quote from Dinesh. Is the main objective of the Nazi Party was to suppress the Christian faith.
Because in his mind, what he wants to do is say, well,
They're being
Hitler
persecuted
wasn't
now.
a Christian,
Yeah.
so therefore Hitler was godless. Therefore, liberal atheists are more like Hitler.
And he's
keeps making these.
hopscotching all over the place. With this
Yeah,
kind of shit.
he basically will say things like, this Nazi also happened to be gay, so therefore, Nazis were okay with gay people.
Yes,
And
he
it's
was
not-
defending Hitler's support of gay people, which was like...
You take one half step back, and you're like, "Who is watching this, though?"
right.
And the other moment,
who is this movie for?
the other
is what
moment
I kept saying.
was
Yeah.
when he's talking about how Republicans wanted to integrate and they freed the slaves and they loved that
Yeah.
shit. They cut to a reenactment on the plantation
Yeah.
of a black girl cutting down the Confederate flag as a good thing.
As a
He's
good thing.
framing it as a win for the Republicans.
There was so much confused
Yeah.
imagery and messaging, and that was another part where I go, who is watching this?
when the
and
average
saying this is for me?
When the average Dinesh fan goes to this movie and sees that Confederate flag fall to the ground, are they saying hell yeah? Like,
he didn't take on the monuments debate in this
didn't.
movie, did he?
No.
But just that
But
shot
just that,
alone
yeah.
was
Yeah.
like very questionable.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
Can we get to the confusion of the big interview? Like,
Oh yeah.
Let's get to the big interview.
Let's get to the
going
big
into this interview,
I can't
didn't know.
believe he put it in the movie.
I didn't know what was going to come out of
This was the
I
dragon.
I was getting worried.
This was the dragon interview.
There was a Salad Dragon interview and a Salad Dragon visual. The visual was the photograph. The Salad Dragon section is this.
So he brings up Charlottesville, and they're marching with their tiki torches, whatever. And then he's like, "This is the proof the media uses." And then he interviews Richard Spencer himself.
Spencer. Is he claimed to be the founder of the alt-right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, he sits down with Richard Spencer.
And I'm going, no.
I'm like,
please no.
But
please.
he's got a different agenda. Like he tries every trick in the book to get Richard Spencer to say what he wants.
And what is it? And what is that?
I think
What does Dinesh out to prove with this interview?
he thinks Richard Spencer is hurting Trump. He puts that out there. He's like, "Don't you think?"
he does draw a line.
Don't you
thankfully.
think that all the people sig heiling around you? Don't you think?
And
that's,
saying "Hail Trump," don't you think that's problematic
that's a
for
little
Trump?
like a Nazi? And he's like, "Yeah, it's fine." And then he's like, "But don't you think Nazis are Democrats?" Or something, to that effect. And Spencer's like, party affiliation doesn't really matter. It's the ideas. Which totally shits on pretty much Dinesh's entire life.
Dinesh's whole thesis is there's a team,
and it's locked
you're-
in.
and it's locked in, and history is static, and
And when Spencer says that, you see Dinesh, like, Dinesh's body language is completely different during this interview. He's sighing a lot. He's sitting back in his seat. He's screwing up his face even more than it already is.
he tells him stop. Now stop. Now,
When Spencer starts talking about what he feels a modern conservative is, Dinesh straight cuts him off because it's about to go fucking south for him.
Yeah. That interview is cut to shreds. And there is a question he asked him that was post-dubbed. I don't know if you heard.
Oh, I didn't notice
I
that.
can't remember what
was
the question
that?
was. It was like, do you think that... Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it was like, do you think Democrats and progressives are more aligned with Nazism today, or something like that?
Yeah, it was post-dubbed, that
And then
line.
he-
and then Spencer was like, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was trying with
The
the
editorial
interview
ethics
to
of
get
this movie are terrible.
yeah,
yeah.
but he was trying to get Spencer to have a revelation in the interview that he indeed was not a Trump supporter, but a supporter of the progressive
Socialist
cause.
ideas.
Yeah.
Correct. And so, but
But he wouldn't do it.
wouldn't give in to
So
that. And
after the interview, D'Souza bitchily cuts to a YouTube clip of Spencer of him saying the shit that he was trying to get him to say within the context of the interview. We don't know the context of the YouTube clip, but in the YouTube clip, he's like, I see value in government making the people stronger,
Right.
And so it's like, why would you even you put him in the movie because he's, I guess, your biggest interview star, but that's a dubious distinction. And if he's not saying what you want, why put footage in of you getting dunked on, D'Souza?
there is so much fucked with his core argument.
And you see him scrambling for it during this.
Where he connects the Nazis. How are the Nazis going to come up with their Jewish elimination solution? And where do they draw it from? They draw it from slavery in America.
America did it.
And more to the point, Democrats.
Yep.
Right? So that's like the basis for everything. Therefore, Nazis are Democrats. And
that carries through no matter what happens.
But it doesn't make... But it does,
100 years later.
but A doesn't connect to B because he's, in the world of this movie, there are no Southern Republicans or Southern conservatives that fetishize the Confederate flag or Confederate war heroes or the Confederate cause.
All that is swept under the
That's
carpet.
what I'm saying.
His direct quote
Yeah.
was, as the South became less racist, it also became more Republican. That's his blanket statement about the South.
It's just an incredible...
And he tries to connect Richard Spencer to Malcolm X. And,
And Spencer says, I think we could sit down because he's basically, Richard Spencer is a true Nazi, regardless of what he says. He wants all non-white people to leave the country and re-immigrate is what Richard Spencer wants.
And it's such a narrow line to how he compares him to Trump. And he literally
But let's talk about how he compares him to Malcolm X, which is so disingenuous and such a fucked thing to do, which is because basically Malcolm X had gotten to the point where to live as a black person in America is to live in a state of violence and oppression, and so there was a proposal of ideas. We should go back to Africa. Fuck this place, basically. And so
he takes that completely out of context.
He takes the entire.
And you can see the clip edit.
Entire context of why Malcolm X would say that.
It is archival footage of Malcolm X with NBC News watermark emblazoned over it, and you see a hard cut just to get to the meat of whatever he's getting. He doesn't even hide his cut. The editorial ethics of this movie are abysmal. The early...
Let's talk about some other editorial ethics of this movie where there are 2 songs in this movie he lets play to their full extent.
We get 2
no editing
full
at all.
songs. The first song we thought was the end.
Because it is who we believe to be Dinesh's wife.
It's definitely Debbie D'Souza singing, and it's like to the most beautiful "God Bless America" stock footage vistas.
Our national parks.
Our national parks.
Which are currently in the process of being privatized by Donald Trump.
That's neither here nor there.
Okay. Just saying,
And
it was the cognitive
we thought it was
dissonance.
over.
We thought, this has got to be
It's
over.
got to be the end. But that was kind of a early third act intermission.
But it felt like the end of the movie.
It should have been the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And then we go back to Nazi Germany, and he is glorifying
A new hero.
this woman who stood up to the fascists and started disseminating pamphlets. Leaflets.
So now we're going to get leaflet Trump support.
But again, it's like Trump won. So if you're tying this to now, Trump is Hitler.
Right.
Yeah,
you
like-
fucking idiot.
Like where...
And the resistance,
That's right.
I leaned over to Zach, I'm like...
She's the resistance.
Right-wingers hate this kind of, like, resistance stuff. Like,
Yeah.
they don't want...
She's acting like the Antifa, throwing pamphlets
Yes.
around.
And I love
there's
how
a
he
troll.
keeps going whenever he talks about the Antifa, he connects them to Nazis purely by costume, as
And
if
he never mentions the fucking
the
hat.
red hat isn't the most prominent costume in America today.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
He just leaves it out. It's lying by omission.
Right.
And there's so much Antifa footage, like the
Yeah.
Antifa just run the
Oh,
country.
they
yeah.
Right.
He
As
hits
if
you
the
with all the
President of the
shit.
United States isn't responsible for the red hat movement in the United States, whereas Antifa is like a fringe, small sect of people, but D'Souza would have you believe that all left, he basically makes the Women's March look like a bunch of Antifa throwing bricks
Yes.
through windows. Like,
He intercuts
It's amazing.
Madonna at the Women's March with Hitler. And it should be noted as well that, you know, the Russian women next to us were talking pretty consistently throughout. There was like a low Russian murmur throughout. But when he mentioned George Soros,
Yes.
they knew Soros before he even met.
they
They were like, Soros, Soros.
Yeah.
They knew. So he's
And
obviously...
they get into Soros's Nazi past, which was news to me. I'm going to have to...
There's a New York Times article revisiting Soros that I'd recommend as a supplemental read.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
Even Roseanne Barr has reversed her
She did.
public stance on the George Soros story. I
think
would
we can follow
recommend it.
Roseanne, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, when the movie finally did end, there were a lot of abbreviated names, which leads us to believe possibly these people, maybe when they realized what movie they were in, because the reenactments are so divorced from the actual content of the movie. Like, you could be in this movie and have no clue what it's about.
And let me
Yeah.
bring it back to, in terms of editing, and in terms of people maybe not knowing what movie we're in, let's bring it back to song number 2 right before those credits.
Yes, please.
When we are treated to a song, a gospel choir in a church singing Glory, Glory, Hallelujah in entirety
Yes.
with
With
no
no stock
additional
footage.
no stock footage.
Nope.
No
You get the whole
montage editing putting together his final statement in images over the music. We're just going to dolly around
Yeah.
this
Take
choir
you to church.
for 5 minutes, maybe?
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable. And then he cuts to the credits and plays another patriotic song.
Kubrick in 2001 also utilized music to, you know, give you a breath, give you a moment to reflect
there's
on
intermissions.
on everything that you've.
It's a lot to take in.
You've seen.
I mean, if nothing else, D'Souza could have cut those 2 songs in half. And
But why?
what do you mean, but why?
Why would you cut it? You have all that cool footage.
My point is, even if you wanted to
It's
make this
anti-American
movie,
to cut down
this
Glory,
movie,
Glory, Hallelujah.
I know, I'm just trying to control him. But if were it me and I were a Nazi producer trying to control this free director's vision, I would say, cut the 2 songs in half.
Sure.
And I'd say, there's about 10 to 15 minutes of this movie. Now, you could spiral where I'm going with this, but I'm just saying, what this movie even wants to
Yes.
be. And I would say the 2 songs, and then that final reenactment sequence with
all that.
with the leaflet woman. Not only is that way too long, we're watching her go up every
Yes.
flight in that building, dropping the leaflets off.
But it hurts
and
the
then,
thesis of the movie.
Yeah, it hurts the thesis. And then they bring her into the office, and he just lets us linger.
And then they
in
cut her
silence.
And that's the final shot.
And it looks like Abe Lincoln is cutting her head off too. Did you notice that? That was really. I think that was unintentional. But
It was unintentional.
His top hat.
Guillotine,
It
yeah.
looked like Abraham
did
Lincoln
look
was
like-
the executioner.
And there was a cross on the wall.
Yeah, very confusing. And also, to bring it back to Gotti,
Please.
the people that went to Gotti, the intended audience, which I don't know if we ever nailed down who that was, but whoever they were, they're not going to enjoy the movie. No. It's boring. It's not a good movie. Like, this movie is boring. It's so fucking boring.
This movie made Gotti look exciting.
It looked like
It
a
did.
crackling, amazing crime picture.
Yeah.
This movie's going to take a few days to recover from this.
This movie, it's like, I don't even, like, it might have even been more boring as a leftist screed. Like, it doesn't matter. The filmmaking is bad.
It's so bad.
So if you're going to this movie, and if like church groups are renting out theaters to go see this movie, they're pumped, they're excited, like, that's gonna die down after like 2 minutes, and you're left with this fucking slog.
And you could say, obviously you could say I'm biased, but say what you want about Michael Moore's politics, and say what you want about the manipulation that Michael Moore does in his movies and the ethics of that. His movies are so much better.
He's
than
trying
this.
to be entertaining.
They're so much more entertaining.
You'll catch so
There's
much
a sense
more-
of humor to them.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, his filmmaking skills are
He
so...
interviews more than 6 people.
Yeah, I mean...
You'll catch so many more alt-right
Just as
flies
propaganda,
with
but like-
honey. Like,
Yeah.
like, make it palatable.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, even if you want to call Michael Moore's movies complete propaganda and you'd make a good case for it, they go down so much smoother.
We'll see his movie too, and if his movie is this, but on the other side of the aisle, we'll call it out. But
Right.
track record, Michael Moore's movies are more entertaining than this by a country mile at least.
But I really do think it's important to note that Donald Trump pardoned this individual, and he then made this movie extolling this man
Gargling his balls
as the second coming of Abraham Lincoln.
Yes,
It's
so
really,
there's a correlation there. If not a collusion, then a conspiracy to ball gargle.
I think I just found the connection to Gotti ultimately, which is
Okay.
Gotti was made by Gotti June.
Yes.
And as executive producer.
Yeah.
And you could call Donald Trump the executive producer of this
Sure.
movie because he pardoned the filmmaker, and then the filmmaker went off and made a ball gargling love letter to him that then Don Jr. Came out at the premiere and said, wow, this was great. And as Matt pointed out in the screening, Don Jr. was definitely looking at his phone the whole time.
There's no way Don Jr. could have sat through this, and there's no way our dear president could have sat
Daddy
through
did not even
Daddy
sit
does
down
not have the
for this.
attention span for the opening
He'll
credits.
tweet about it, but he will not
He will
watch it.
never watch it, which is insane.
Great, entertaining, action-packed movie with a
action-packed.
lot of truth.
Left me breathless and wanting more. All right, let's get to the bones. Let's not give this more of a platform than it needs. Brother Zach, you're on a roll.
Yeah.
How many? Like 3 bones, maybe? What do you think?
I mean, I hate to go to woof because it's so predictable, but it is what it is, man.
Yeah.
It's
Sometimes
a woof.
you gotta call it what
it's
it
a
is.
woof. I'm not. I'd like to feel like even if I hated the arguments and the politics, I would still say, you know what though. I see that had I agreed with him, he could speak to me, and he did it well. And there's nothing for anyone in this movie. That's what
It
I
really
mean.
isn't.
Who is this? I can't recommend this movie to a Trump-supporting, second cousin or uncle.
No,
because
they're going to be bored out of their
it's-
skull.
It's boring.
Has
It's-
very little to do with Trump.
Yeah,
very
there's
little.
very little Trump in the movie. There's nothing they don't know.
And that's the main complaint on Amazon about Hillary's America, is that it's all about slavery, and Hillary comes in like the last 20 minutes. They're like, I wanted more Hillary stuff.
It's just not a very convincing argument for the modern conservative movement.
No, it's a muddled, weird
and
argument.
I'm not above saying there is an argument to be made for the modern conservative movement, and I would probably disagree in most cases with it, but it
this ain't
certainly
it.
could look a lot more persuasive than this movie. This movie had no entertainment value. It had no intellectual or historical value. It was just a love letter from a federal criminal to this current president of the United States who pardoned him, and that's about it.
There it is. Brother Bishke, what do you got?
The
historian.
Dinesh is 3 for 3. 2016 Obama's America, which I just watched.
Is it 2012 Obama's America?
I'm sorry, you're right. 2012 Obama's America. 2016 Hillary's.
I think it's just Hillary's America.
Or just Hillary's America.
I don't know.
Either way, those were woofs. This one, you got a woof.
Oh! Ow, ow, ow!
Dinesh glasses over all the reasons why we're a little fearful that Trump might be a tyrant who's on his way towards a life in the presidency. And
Dear leader for life.
It's woof.
It's a woof. He's dropping it. I mean, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do here? I'm not gonna give it a bone. I'm not gonna give it a Roger Ebert Memorial half bone. This movie deserves a woof. It's a woof. It's a woof on purely filmmaking levels alone. It's a woof on the cynical way that he tries to manipulate people with his specious arguments. It's a woof on every conceivable level.
Yeah.
I almost would give it a half bone just because it's been making me think about Gotti more often and favorably,
Yeah.
as if that's a virtue.
Yeah.
But it's not.
But that half bone should go to Gotti then.
The half bone should go to Gotti, and I think I did give Gotti a half bone.
Yeah.
I did not.
You can revise if you want.
Travolta's got more charisma in his fingernail than Dinesh in this entire...
The only good thing about this movie was seeing the life-size cutout billboard poster for Black Klansman on the way out the theater, and I look forward to that film.
Yeah. We're gonna turn it around real quick here.
I think the best thing was having the Russian lady sitting next to us.
So, that's correct.
Like, wow. Like, that is so beautiful. Like, what brought them there?
Well, just like many things in 2018, so on the nose and yet so tickled.
It's like bad writing to have them show up.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like we're making that up.
No, the two Russian women walking, when they started talking, I turned to, I think, Bishke, and I said, is that Russian?
I thought it was Swedish at first.
Yeah,
I heard a little
definitely
bit,
Russian.
and then it was very
There was
confirmed.
no question.
And when around the time we got to Soros, it
Yeah.
was extra confirmed.
I wonder if they're friends with Butina.
Yeah. There's a lot of RT footage of the Antifa as well in the movie that they were enjoying.
Oh my. Well, let's take a little time to recover. I don't think we have anything that harrowing coming up on the horizon that I can see. I mean, who knows? Who knows what dragons lurk in them there weeds? But we got awards season right around the corner. We're gonna be hitting up Michael Moore's film, of course, as a companion piece to this. And if any of you within the sound of my voice see this film, be our eyes and ears out there. Let us know every little detail about your screening, because it's fascinating. It is fascinating that a movie like this is in so many theaters right now.
And in 2020, Dinesh will have his biggest... Granted, Trump will be running then.
Yes.
He will have his biggest love song to Trump that you can ever imagine to try to get him back into office.
And Zach will be right here, front row.
Oh! So many slam dunks on Dinesh.
Oh, good Lord.
Go out into the world and find the love and the light that sustains you and fulfills you. We love you.
We love you.
Love and light. Adios.
We say goodbye in America. Ball gargling